Busy people and lots of yellies, Worcester hipsters and fed up townies. We have more than pizza in common, with two rocks for bookends. New Haven, New Haven, New Haven, between two rocks.
And welcome back to the Between Two Rocks podcast. I'm your host, Josh Levinson. Thank you so much for coming back, tuning in. We have been away for a little bit because I've been feeling pretty sad. I guess it's not that funny, but
you've been blue.
Been blue, feeling sad. Told everybody on Facebook, so that helps? ? I don't know. Anyway, Colin, welcome back.
Yeah, Facebook really, that helps your mental health, right? Isn't that what all the research shows?
It's great.
That's where you turn when your mental health is suffering?
It's nice because you get so many unsolicited opinions about what kind of vitamins you're not taking.
Definitely.
I didn't know all my sadness. Lifelong sadness. B12. Bam. Problem
Definitely
solved.
gives you energy. The whole B complex, really.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
Stupid.
You're probably dangerously low on vitamin D, too. Did anybody mention that?
Yeah, 100%. I was like, I go outside. You're like, sure you do, nerd. Take your vitamins.
Not enough.
Stop feeling sad,
Computer screen doesn't give you vitamin D.
Anyway, we got to roll right into it today because our guests are busy people. Our guests today
quit wasting our time right now. Come on, jeez. It's all mental health stuff.
You know, sometimes I make people wait minutes to talk, but we have no time for that sort of thing.
I've forgotten guests are here sometimes. It's been all intro.
It's good. I was going to ask you to name them, but I feel like you would, and I don't need that kind of trouble.
No.
Okay.
There have been times that you couldn't name the guests, so I would.
That's fair. Yeah. I get sometimes with name. I'll have known somebody for like 6 years, and I'm like, this is, oh God, it's not coming to me. It's Steve, you've known him for so long.
Yeah.
I
all
freak out.
changes on the mic.
Anyway, our guests today are one of New Haven's power couples. I would say the journalistic power couple. Tom's raising a fist bump, but he's left hanging. Oh, she came in. So
she was asserting her dominance in the power couple.
We can talk about that.
An inauspicious beginning.
Yeah.
And those lovely voices you hear are Lucy Gellman and Tom Breen. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
What an honor.
That's right.
That's an honor.
That's damn straight.
All right. I'm supposed to be the funny one, Tom. God.
You done blowing smoke up our ass, Tom?
Not even close.
Perfect. It's good. Oh, these people are just discovering that their car's been double booted.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's looking pretty dicey out here.
Let's bring them on the podcast.
Yeah. You know what? You guys are all right, but I want to hear from somebody who just got their car booted
At least we
twice.
got introduced.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
Some don't make it that far.
So Lucy and Tom, if you do not know, Lucy is the, I don't even know, director of the arts paper?
Editor, yeah.
Editor
Director,
of the arts paper, which is a nonprofit.
Yeah, and so we're
of the Arts Council.
Yep, we are a nonprofit, editorially independent publication of the Arts Council of New Haven. We run at least one article a day, except for Saturdays and Sundays, but we try for 2. We just don't always get there because I like to sleep.
I'm the same, but it's like sometimes it's like maybe once a month or less.
Yeah, but yours are much funnier than mine. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and that's all that matters when it comes to journalism, I would say. Yeah, just how many jokes per minute you can jam in. Facts.
Facts.
Totally, yeah.
And if you're a slow reader, you can jam even more jokes in.
Totally.
That's right. And Tom is the managing editor at the New Haven Independent. Is that right?
That is right. Yes.
Nice. I did
I
did some
Nailed it.
research. Hell
Yeah, that was great.
My initial guesses were a little bit wrong, so I was glad I looked on the old LinkedIn ahead of time.
So are you two just a working couple, or are you a romantic couple?
No, we're a romantic couple. We've been together for
6 plus
something years. Yeah.
Nice.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2013.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and actually Tom
Which part? That they're a couple or that
No,
long?
I know that they're a couple, but that long. Like, I feel like I met
many
them,
years,
and I did not know that you... Oh, man.
Yeah, and
I was
actually,
on the DL back when you knew.
I guess. They were like, you know, giving the air of availability. That sort of sensual, like, you could have me if you were charming enough.
Tom, you dog.
No, so we actually met when Justin Elliker was running against Tony Harp for the first time. In
The most romantic of circumstances, of course.
It was. It got hot and heavy real fast.
And we met. Like we didn't meet
No,
over
no.
the campaign.
No, that's
we-
how Lucy catalogs time in her life.
right.
Elliker was running for mayor the first time at that
Right.
point.
Right, but we
Were you on the
met,
same squad,
and
or?
so I had just moved here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on no squad, and
Right.
Tom was at that time knocking doors for Justin Elliker, and he said, "You've got to read this publication called the New Haven Independent," and I had no idea what it was, and I was like, "Okay."
Okay,
but
love
then
the
I did.
cynicism.
Disdain.
Well,
Get
no,
away from me,
I just-
stranger.
and then I started reading it, and at the same time I was working. So I moved here to work for the institution that rhymes with fail, and I was working for the the art gallery, and telling my boss about like arts activities that I was going to, and I think she just got tired of hearing about them because she said, "You know what? I think they're looking for an arts reporter at this publication that my husband works for called the New Haven Independent."
And then she fired you.
You should. She didn't. She may have wanted to.
Anyway,
but
this
she,
is
no.
your termination.
Surprise. Yeah. So I would say in some ways, I don't think we even realized how prominent a role the Independent would play in our relationship.
Right,
But
because I was
it
working at Yale Press at
Yeah.
the time, which
But
is
it-
the book publisher at Yale. That's
It
why I
was
came
right
came to
there.
New Haven.
Wait, is that the same institution she was just talking about,
A-
or
a
No.
different one. Lucy was working at the Yale Art Gallery,
Yes.
which is the museum on
Oh.
Chapel Street.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah, thanks. I was like, boy, that joke really
But ultimately-
thudded into the ground.
But
But
ultimately,
we met,
ultimately
yeah.
we wound up. Yeah, we met, and we also both became hyper local journalists. About
and we
writing
stayed.
about New Haven.
Hyper local, that's right.
Hyperlocal.
Just these 3 blocks.
Just three. Just
Somebody
this
got
one
robbed 4
street.
blocks away. We don't cover that.
Nope.
How big do you have to get until you're no longer hyper local?
So we cover 18.7 square miles because that is the size of New
But
Haven.
the density's very high.
Yes, it's 132,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little different for both of us because we are technically, the arts paper is technically regional. So we do cover Hamden. Occasionally I cover legislative decisions that affect the arts that are happening in Hartford, but trickling down to New Haven. And we also cover the greater New Haven region. With Tom, it really is anything outside of New Haven. And I would say now Hamden. The New Haven Independent has a fantastic Hamden reporter named Sam Gerwit. And that has opened, I would say, the door to Hamden reporting.
But why? But it's an interesting question as
But
to
do
why I
people
say
want to
hyper
know about
local versus
Hamden?
local.
You
Yes.
know?
Oddly enough,
Yes, they
there has
do.
been a huge appetite for Hamden local news. I think because Hamden is, despite what some New Haveners think, it's like a sub. It's like 80,000 people. There are a lot of people who live in Hamden, and it's
None of
growing.
whom count.
No,
Yeah.
Right, none of them count. You didn't let me finish the second clause of that sentence.
That's right. Okay.
Was none
Sorry.
of
You
them
were going to say
count.
that. Of course.
No.
My bad.
But yeah, no. Hamden has a really politically engaged electorate, and
Yeah.
people were really, and also a board of ed that is can be pretty messy sometimes. And between having people who really care about politics and having a school board that is so divisive, people wanted someone on that beat. Someone writing daily news about it, and we're fortunate enough to have Sam Gerwit covering that. But hyper local, So why add the hyper before local? It's part of it. It just
Sounds
makes
cool.
it sounds more intense.
Sounds
It's
really
like,
cool.
no, man, I'm not a local reporter. I'm a hyper. It's
That's right.
yeah, it's super local reporter. But I think when I hear local reporting, I think City Hall and Board of Ed. Those are kind of the 2 primary civic institutions that a local reporter.
Boring.
However, I think what the Independent does so well, and what the arts paper does so well too, is that while those are critical places for us to report on, we also go anywhere and everywhere in the city to write about something, no matter how small. For example, community management teams, these kind of 12 different regular meetups in every single neighborhood by people who just care about the welfare of their community and what's going on from crime to new developments to new art projects to what's happening at the library. Those
Mostly
happen most.
Mostly
Not
crime.
true. But
I
but their
would say
crime is
actually
apparent.
at Josh's community
these kind of things
management
dig-
team, which is Whaley, Edgewood, Beaver Hills, it's a
There's a lot of
lot of crime talk.
But I think
Yeah.
that
The ones that I've been to. Hey, it's Dan. Hey,
Dan's walking by.
We also needed to give a brief boot update. The booted car is now getting towed.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
I don't know how you tow a car that's got 2 boots on it. But,
Well, it's only on the front, right?
No,
Oh, man.
I think it's got one on the rear, too.
Oof. Well, this guy probably knows how to pop the boot off.
Yeah, so I will be continuing to give boot updates as the podcast goes on.
Yep. The guy's not at rock bottom yet, people. We're getting there.
But yeah, I would say that is if I'm going to rationalize what the hyper means, I think it means not just City Hall and Board of Ed. It means, going out into the community and writing about stuff that just, is important in people's lives, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
It gives us something to argue about in the comment section.
Exactly.
That's the important.
Yeah. What do you feel about the comment section? Is it
Pure gold all
filth,
the time?
or
Agree.
do you ever read the comments?
Do I ever? Oh my God! So I would say if there was anything even more positive than pure gold all the time, that is how I would describe the New Haven
What
Independent
percentage
comment
of
section.
your time is dealing with comments on the New Haven
Right,
Independent?
I mean, I'm more than happy to talk about like comments and commenters who like post some crazy stuff. But I think the comment section, and I mean this like 100% earnestly, I think the comment section is, one of the parts of the Independent that make it truly unique in this region, and I don't know, in the online news environment. In that, we screen every comment that we publish. If you go to unscreened comment threads, it's like a Klan rally. Like people just post the craziest, most racist ad hominem stuff because because people
you
on
never
the internet
checked out the WTNH Facebook
right, or the register,
no, I have.
registered comment thread.
Well, no,
Yeah,
are you saying that
pretty
you get
nasty.
those as well?
No,
You have to
well,
screen
No, we
out?
don't, because over the course of the 15 years that the Independent's been around, we have a comments policy that says you can't attack someone that for a reason that's like completely irrelevant to the subject at hand. If you are the subject of an article, you can't comment anonymously. You have to use your name to do it. And no, racist, bigoted language, which, it's sometimes, we let something through and we feel horrible about it and we cancel it immediately. The comment section, like any civic debate, is going to get heated. But I learned so much every single day from the
love it.
comments. It like drives the site.
You should
for me.
release an alternate site where all the comments get through, like after.dark.newhavenindependent.com.
but that's-
Just
that's
so you
the
can
internet.
flip
That's
over
the
and
internet.
see like
That's
what's
the internet,
really
man.
going on.
There's plenty of that on the
Yeah.
internet where there isn't just like a more curated and respectful and substantive conversation about news, which I feel like the Independent, not everyone agrees, but I think that's what makes the Independent so special.
I think it is. And a couple years ago, Paul Bass, the editor of the New Haven Independent and founder of the New Haven Independent, actually went through this whole process where he shut down the comments entirely for a while. I don't know, Josh, if you remember.
I do remember
this.
that 100%. Yeah.
And then he brought them back with this new comment policy. And you have to check the little box saying, I've read and agree to the comment policy. And I've seen Paul send emails to people saying, listen, you've done too many comments that don't abide by our comment policy. We're done for a while.
Yeah.
And I really have a lot of respect for that because there are other organizations that just because of the flood of comments shut them down entirely because there's so much vitriol, or like the Register, everything gets through. And I've read through those and thought like, my God, New Haven is racist.
So what I struggle with the comments is that I feel
I mean,
like
I don't need to read the Register to figure that out.
ideal world comments I think should not allow for anonymity. Like ideal Independent for me, I want everyone to use their actual name and
too.
be
Yeah, I think
accountable
that'd
to
be
comments.
great.
However, the reason why the Independent does not do that and allows for more anonymous handles is that there were plenty of people interested, because the Independent's kind of the site that you go to to the Independent store, but it's like when you're really paying attention to New Haven politics and school stuff, and people kind of in the know read and comment in the Independent. At least that's the way I like to think about it. And there were enough people in who work for the city or underneath people who would fire them immediately if they found out they were being critical in the comment section of the department. That you want to provide
so what
a little
percentage
bit
of them
cover.
do you think work directly for Elker, just undermining him with every?
I mean, the comments skew conservative, without a doubt, much more conservative than New Haven as a city.
It is pretty fast. That's true all around the board, which is very strange to me. That for such a for the New Haven Register, it's how are this many people so how are the comments so hyper conservative when the electorate is so hyper liberal?
It's
Well, the
actually
Register
not that
appeals
weird
more
to
to
me,
New
but-
Haven County,
Yeah.
so it's New Haven County is much more conservative than New Haven proper. I mean, you got all the suburbs.
But it's actually not that weird to me. And also so two things. I find the comments on the Indie super engaged. My favorite part of about them is
the real
that they're
question
very
is
engaged,
my comment of facepalm and ASCII. Where does that rank all time for comments? After Tony Harp
Top
was
5.
I'm sort of running again, but not really. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
I forget if I asked you, did you come up with that? Or
No,
did you
that was cut and paste.
Oh, it was
that
so
was
great.
inspired
But I was
comment.
I saw it right when it posted, so I was like, if I get this as the first
Yes.
comment, I will have won the internet today.
And was it the first comment?
It was. Oh yeah,
man.
It was excellent.
huge.
Yeah.
And now it's there forever, as long as the internet. As long as the internet.
That's my moment of glory.
Do you know who the commenters are? Generally, I mean, you can see the email address.
yeah, I know who. Probably 60%.
I mean, mine
or
says
70%.
Between Two Rocks. I
use my real name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually do allow anonymous commenting on Between Two Rocks only because I want the lowest barrier of entry. Because like for me, it's like traffic is a little harder to come by. So like any engagement isn't. I don't want to say it's good engagement, but most people are like engaging in a positive way, and I like there's not enough of it that I'm like. I can moderate it. You know what I mean? Like, I worry more about when somebody else writes an article and somebody says something hateful. And that's when I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like, all right. And I'll delete that. But my skin is pretty thick at this point, just from doing comedy stuff. I'm like, you know what? That's fine. You can, once you post your stuff on Reddit enough, you get your feelings hurt enough where you're like, you know what? It's fine. The internet's stupid.
Josh is all callous now. He feels
Exactly.
nothing.
That's right. I learned it from my dad.
I mean, there are like really heated and sharp comments that can contribute in a productive way to a conversation about something. And then there's stuff that's just like you're venting and this isn't helpful.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And it's mostly just 3/5 educating us about what is gentrification and
talk
what stage are we in.
3/5.
What stage are we in? 3? 5? I can't keep track.
Yeah,
4?
I don't know.
See, it's
It
hard to
changes.
know.
That's the nature of stages.
That's
I guess
right.
it's probably And then the arts paper also has a comment section, which I feel like has been building up.
Yeah, we moderate it. We just don't have the same following at this point. So when we get a comment, I get really excited.
Nice.
We have a sharing relationship with the New Haven Independent, which means sometimes they will share our stuff in the sort of little extra side panel.
Yep.
I take it as a mark of great pride when 3/5 migrates over from
Nice.
the
Hell
independent to and feels strongly enough to comment.
As you should.
Yeah. So, but it's
Basically
something
like a
that,
Pulitzer. I mean, it's the same. In New Haven, commenting, it's the same.
Yeah, there have not been that many comments that there maybe have been like one or two that I've marked as not appropriate and sent an email to someone saying this isn't appropriate. And
we met 3/5 the other day.
We
for the first
did.
time we were at the New Haven
really?
Museum, and he came up to us and he said, Tom Breen and Lucy Gellman. And
Nice.
we were like, yes.
That's how he introduced himself, by saying your full names to you? Awesome.
Well, Tom said, "Excuse me, sir. Who are you?"
Yeah. We're friends. I'm friends with him on Facebook. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty fascinating
He's
guy.
a fascinating dude.
He really hates bicycles so much. I've never met anybody who really is like, is he the one who calls people the bicycle cartel? I'm just like, what the
Are you friends with the real 3/5? I don't know who he is, the real guy.
On Facebook, I mean, I don't know. His
actually,
name on Facebook
from what
Is
I-
his name 3/5?
Edward?
It actually is.
It is.
Yeah,
Edward
I believe he
3/5.
changed his name to
Okay.
3/5.
Yeah.
Like in
But
real
yeah, I
life?
think, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And I think that, right, he wants to
I
have
mean,
like
not legally.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
his legal name is 3/5.
Really?
Yeah. From what I
Wow.
understand. I could be wrong in
Shit.
that, but from what I understand,
Yeah.
that is the case.
He-
But yeah, he
and-
wants to
and
tax
he lives
bicycles.
in your-
Right. He wants like a car tax, but on bikes.
Yeah.
Oh, like a
He's-
property tax.
I think he's in your neighborhood. So just like if you
Oh, I
hang
have no
out-
doubt about that.
if you
yeah.
hang out at Edge,
He's got that
for
Edgewood
a little-
vibe.
yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah.
You can
So
just
just
tell.
hang out by the like prepackaged tahini for a while.
That's
at
what
Edge
I
of the
do
Woods
most of the
and-
time. I gotta find this guy.
Yeah, just
Nice. Cool. Oh, that's everything. So,
The car
How do you-
outside is gone, everybody.
Oh,
It's
man.
episode.
Boot
where's the car
update.
update?
Mhm.
it is gone. So you're Tom. You manage New Haven Independent, managing editor. How do you? This is sort of a selfish question, but how do you find fucking advertisers? Because my current plan is message a business on Facebook out of the blue and hope for anything, which is has worked once or twice, but for the most part, they just don't even respond at all.
Yeah, so
Give me your advertising secrets.
like
to
with
the
the arts
public.
paper, the Independent is a nonprofit. It's part of the Online Journalism Project, which is a kind of umbrella nonprofit that includes La Voz Hispana, the New Haven Independent, WNHH, and their I'm not sure if Inner City News is part of it too.
I think there
But
might
anyway,
be some
the upshot is we don't
fledgling, yeah.
actually sell ads. It's all The Independent was one of the first nonprofit news sites online in the country back in 2005, and for the past 15 years, it's grant funded and it's donor funded, and we do have I don't quite know what to describe them. We have a kind of a poster wall where people. Like
So I occasionally do see things that are sort of like
yeah,
ads,
so I'm not
right?
I-
but that's not.
Am I freaking out?
Well,
No.
no, it's
I bought
not.
penis pills off the site the other day.
But they're for like Leap or
They're
something.
non-profit penis pills.
But it's also the Independent does have sponsors, and so in
Sponsors,
addition
right.
to
There could be a distinction
donors,
between
like
sponsors and
individual donors and grants, it has nonprofit sponsors. So
right.
for
like we have an Elm
instance-
City Market ad or sponsorship.
So that's a four.
in our email.
Sponsor, advertiser.
But I'll just say that I'd say
Whatever.
like 95% of the Independent's budget is donations and grants, and that Paul is kind of Paul Bass, who's the editor of the Independent, the founder of it. He's been a journalist in New Haven since 1978. He has an incredible wealth of connections and people who respect him much and in the journalism world around the country, and he's been able to. He does all of the fundraising, and he kind of keeps the site going financially year over year with a lot of donated help from people. And it's every year. It's not quite certain what the next year will bring in terms of money, so it's never quite certain. But he's able to keep it going. And
what's the annual budget, if you happen to know that? What does it take to keep it going?
I don't know if
about $500,000.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more than that, but I don't.
Also, like the Independent is a not-for-profit, which means
right. I guess you
the
could
tax information is on the website.
It's closer to like 600. But it really does depend on the year. I mean, I'd say that's around where we're at. But
yeah,
we just hired a new reporter today. Actually, someone just started
investment
today.
to get a great quality hyper-local news.
You could use a hyper-local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm just thinking 600,000. I'm gonna become a nonprofit. I've just decided.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's no sort of state support
because I'm not making profit, so I'm already halfway there for sure. Like as far as the not making a profit goes, I'm crushing it.
So this is a whole other thing, but the state does support some, not all nonprofits with something. So it does line item funding under the Department of Economic and Community Development. But the Indy isn't one of the but it supports community development nonprofits. And for me, the idea of having a grassroots journalism outlet where you're really learning about the people and places that make the city tick is something that is totally worthy of. Like, I would much rather see that than like the Litchfield Jazz Festival. They're probably going to call me with a bee in their bonnet.
Classic bee in their bonnet situation, yeah.
I know.
100%.
But I would much rather see the Indy get $50,000 every year from the state of Connecticut to support something that is in the interest of not only transparent government but also good government.
Mm-hmm.
And that's New Haven we're talking about.
I mean,
I guess I would say
right?
to play devil's advocate, it'd be a fine line since someone else might come out with their Breitbart News publication and say they want the $50K too.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Don't give anybody fucking ideas over there, Colin.
It's time for an alternative independent.
Yeah, no.
I want to see those comments.
I mean, there are all of these interesting discussions going on right now about what does it mean for public entities like a board of education, for instance, or a nonprofit news corporation. It's not a corporation because it's nonprofit, but a nonprofit news outlet to be getting both public funds but also private funds. Mm-hmm. So that is also just because when you rely on donors, part of the question is how much do they try to control the content? And I'm happy to talk about a situation we had where someone gave us a lot of money, tried to control the content, threw a fit, and then took his money away.
Who was it?
So it was someone who wants to remain anonymous but lives out of the state of Connecticut.
Yeah.
Gave us a lot of money for coverage of the arts in Hartford. So this was at the end of 2018. I was running between New Haven and Hartford, sort of doing coverage of both, which just meant not sleeping a whole lot.
Sure.
And after a month of our coverage, which is like we cover arts, culture, and community, but with a hyper local bent, and I would say also like a lens that is really interested in what does anti-racism work look like in the arts, what does social justice work look like in the arts as well. And so we were covering some of that in Hartford, and after a month he said this isn't proper arts reporting and took the money away, which is fine for me because it means less time on the train between the two cities.
Yeah.
So what arts reporting was he looking for?
I think straight up arts reporting. So when people hear arts reporting, and this is for me something
keep your social justice out of arts reporting.
Yeah, and
just tell me about the pretty colors, lady.
Yeah, which is really funny because the arts have always been a vehicle for social justice, and also
wrong.
and also like
jazz. Really, that was about social. Okay.
Fucking jazz. No, but also like when I think about how the arts are used in a wider context, let's take a rally or a protest, for instance. It would be so boring if people weren't using the arts in a public context. But to answer your question, I think he was thinking of like, okay, there's a show on Winslow Homer, or there was at the Wadsworth Athenaeum. What does it look like to go and cover that show? And Winslow Homer actually is, I think, a virtuosic artist, but I wasn't interested in writing about that show.
Yeah, I didn't really catch any of that. My dad's becoming a docent at the Wadsworth.
Ooh.
They're a dope museum. They're super great.
What does it
I'm gonna
take to
let him
become
know.
a docent?
What's this word that you're using?
He's like one of those people, a docent. He like
Yeah.
he like gives tours like around the Athenaeum and stuff. So
Okay.
basically, he retired like 2 weeks ago, and yeah, he's
Got restless
it's like
over
a
the past
year.
2 weeks.
Congrats,
Right.
Josh's dad. Also,
Yeah.
that's a major milestone.
He doesn't listen. Don't worry, he's not. He can't hear this. We can talk shit about him.
Yeah.
Your pants look stupid. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you
He's
called him a
right.
docent. That's strong language. You docent.
Boy, I'm confused now. But
Are you using that word properly?
I think so. Anyway, it's like a year-long training,
yeah?
though. It's
Wow.
a serious, yeah. But
Oh,
he
wow.
like teaches at UHeart too, so he's like sort of
Ah.
kind of got that thing in him where he likes to sound
Be in
cultured
control of
in front
people.
right.
Does he teach art history?
Show off it. No, he teaches psychology.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, that's why I'm so fun. Cool. I had another question.
So I've got no help on the advertising for Between Two Rocks.
That's fine. I'm gonna just keep. I just basically what I need to do is just like give somebody like $100 and have them do it. Is what's really like the smart move. You know, because like at some point you got to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and just be like, it's okay to just like. I'm sure I know people who do marketing who could do with a little extra money and wouldn't mind like throwing a couple hours at it.
Yeah, you
got
got to start spending a lot more money. That's how you can make some cash.
That's right. Every time I'm like, ooh, did I almost go black this year? Spend.
And then I mean, so the Arts Council has a development person, so Lucy doesn't have
Did
to
you
raise
just
money for the
prompt
art
him
paper.
to? Did you,
No,
hold on.
wait,
Did you just hand him a phone to tell him what to
man.
tee up?
No,
No, but I was gonna say, but
Wow.
the Independent doesn't.
You
and
really are a power couple. high level.
I sent him a message
Some
just
plug.
to make sure that he wasn't mad that I disclosed what the Independent.
No,
needs
not
every year.
at all. Although
Everyone
now you
should
know.
give to the New Haven
That you
Independent.
disclosed
by
what?
the way, what the Independent runs on every year. I think transparency is super important.
By all means,
Um,
do it.
But
it
also,
out.
everyone should
Oh,
give
yeah.
to the New Haven Independent
And BetweenTwoRocks.com.
and Between
And
Two
Between
Rocks.
Stop trying to
Click
force
that
it down
little-
our throats.
Just click that little buy me a coffee button. I run on $3 at a time, so that's pretty exciting. So Lucy, you worked for the Independent previously.
I
right?
did.
You got a job. You left Yale. You worked for the Independent as an arts reporter.
Yes, and also
I mean, everybody
no.
wears multiple hats there. I
Yeah,
assume,
so
right?
I started for the Independent actually when I was still working for Yale as a freelancer, but I was
Okay.
mostly covering arts, and it was
Yeah.
because so Paul sold me partly because he was like, you can get free tickets if you do that, and I was like, what? And
It's
I
like art stuff.
yeah,
Yep.
which is awesome. But then I was actually going to go to graduate school to get my PhD in art history, so I super dodged a bullet there. And as I
Actually
was
getting a PhD, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah, well done. Whew.
And woohoo! And I had the offer from a school I was very excited about, and Paul took me out to tea. It was like the cheapest
He
life
gave you
changing
an
event.
offer you couldn't
yeah.
refuse
He
over
said-
tea.
So they were starting. The Independent was starting WNHH Radio, which is its wonderful sister radio affiliate, and he said, "Come, like help build this
I
scrappy
refuse to
little."
acknowledge my competition.
Okay, word. That's fair. That's fair. And he said, "Come work for this little scrappy radio station," and I did. And then I worked for a little while as a general assignment reporter too. And then, for a number of reasons, so I knew I was funded for the year, but I didn't know what was happening beyond that. And then this job at the arts paper came up, and the arts paper for over 20 years had been a monthly print publication catering to paying members of the Arts Council. And I talked to the director of the Arts Council, who was new, Dan Fitzmaurice. And I said, like, listen, you've got to make the arts paper online. You've got to make it more interactive. You have to declare editorial independence because you can't keep writing about the same cycle of like kind of mediocre white people, which it was doing for over 20 years. And also the editor was at that point based in Iowa, and she was part-time. And so there was no sense of on-the-ground reporting. And unfortunately or fortunately, often the people with the loudest voices in the room, especially in the arts, so who will let you know about their events, are the folks who have a press person. So she was getting notices about the symphony orchestra and the Festival of Arts and Ideas and things that were going on at Neighborhood Music School. And these are all institutions I still write about, and institutions that have directors and leadership teams who work for them.
So you're saying they're run by mediocre white people?
No,
Is that
who
what
I
I'm
respect
hearing?
very much.
Are you willing to go on the record?
No. But there were also
I just want to destroy someone's career for
No.
once.
One time.
there were articles about like
No, I get it.
a person painting pine cones for Christmas in Guilford, and that is not
That's my
bag.
dad.
It
Listen,
might
your
be.
dad should use some different colors, all right?
Yeah.
God, really? White again?
Or pine cones again? Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
or
That's his thing.
or like theater companies on the shoreline who have somehow managed to exist for years and years and years and never feature one single person of color in their productions. And to me, this was baffling because New Haven is such a vibrant and diverse city. And so I kind of gave him this pitch, and he was like, well, do you want to do it? And it seemed like a good gig. And so my idea was, okay, I'll stay for 2 years. I'll see if I can save this thing. If it kicks the bucket, I'll, get the hell out of Dodge and cut my losses.
So you're going to flee? Like the state? Or
No.
just,
Well, I'm not. I haven't fled yet.
Yeah. How long has it been?
It's been about 2.5 years.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
All right,
shit.
got past the line.
Yeah. I'm sleeping now. It's great.
And in addition to
No need to
publishing
brag.
a daily arts, news, culture, community website, Lucy also every spring and now every fall teaches this program called the Youth Arts Journalism Initiative, where she and now Markeisha Ricks has filled the new program director role, another former reporter at The Independent. They teach New Haven public high school students how to be journalists, specifically how to be local arts journalists, maybe even hyper-local
awesome.
journalists.
Yeah.
So there's been, she's developed this incredible kind of educational component to building a pipeline for New Haveners, seriously, for New Haven students to become the next generation arts paper editor, New Haven Independent reporter, in addition to doing the reporting. So
counterpoint.
Lots going
Here
on
is
at
why
the
arts
arts
are
paper.
stupid, okay?
Yeah. I have this moment all the time. So I'm going to hear you out.
All right. Art allows people to express themselves. So that's strike 2, right? I just think
Wait,
a lot
was
of
strike 1 that it was stupid?
just 2 strikes. That's right there. Just that whole
Stupid
thing.
is point
I
one.
just
Okay.
hate how like people can express themselves and through aesthetics, terrible. Most people shouldn't even be allowed to do. No, I'm just kidding around. Art just confuses me because I'm an engineer, so it all is like. I didn't ever understood art because that was like I would try a thing and then they'd be like, "Yeah, it's like a beat." I'm like, "What do you even? What?" I was like, "It's not even right or wrong." Anyway,
Doing it yourself.
yeah. This is just a pure vengeful burn.
Of your 4th grade arts teacher.
We do need to take a quick break, so we will be right back here with Tom Breen and Lucy Gellman and Colin Ryan. So stay tuned and let me know how those wine gals are doing. We'll be right back.
If you're interested in listening to information about midwifery through the lens of race, culture, and sexuality,
if you have a uterus, know someone who has a uterus, or are just interested in information about people with uteruses,
tune in to the Midwife Crisis podcast.
And we're back. All right. Thank you so much for coming back. Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't even know if I gave Abel enough time on that one. My bad. Oh, well. What are you going to do? I'm
So
sure.
in the episode, there's just going to be, get ready for a break, everyone, and then there's no break.
I would fucking love if he burned me like that. It just sounded like a fucking lunatic.
A fake break.
And then you should just
Fine.
put the ad straight in the middle of a sentence later on.
There's just a 45-second tirade of me hating art. No, I think arts are great. I'm a fan. I just don't, participate necessarily.
What if you are a stand-up comic?
Yeah.
Is that not somewhere?
It goes to the
arts?
definition of art.
Somewhere,
It is not.
somewhere in
I
the
would
arts.
say what I'm doing is not
Dirty
art.
filth.
Yeah. I don't know if comedy's art. It can be, but I would say a lot of it.
I
is just
totally
silly.
think it is.
I think it's art.
I totally think it is.
Yeah, sure. You haven't heard what I've heard. Yeah, no, I mean, there's different levels of it. So some people are doing art for sure.
So you said comedy.
Yeah, that's right. Fair. Cool. So, yeah, I love the New Haven Independent. Love the arts paper. I try to read them all I can, insofar as I have a full-time job and you produce a lot of content. How do you I know for me, it's just hard to stay motivated to keep writing all the time, and like I have like a full-time gig that isn't writing, obviously. But even still, it's like I don't always Between Two Rocks obviously kind of sits in a different place in terms of I usually try to express an opinion about something or be silly or just like here's a thing, right? But it's a kind of jokey. But like, how do you number one, how do you find stuff to write about, and how do you stay motivated? Like, there's got to be stuff that you don't care about writing, right?
Yeah. You want to go first?
Oh, I just want to shout out Tom in this respect. He's super amazing in that he writes minimum 3 stories a day. He's just really fast.
So how many words would you say per?
3 words per story.
3 words
No,
per?
I don't
9
write 3
words.
stories.
Damn!
You really do. He's amazing.
No, I mean, I would say...
All right, quit
No, but so both Lucy
fooling around in front of us.
both Lucy and I started out as part-time reporters. I mean, we had full-time jobs at Yale and then worked part-time for
Those
the
we all
Independent.
know, working full-time at Yale, you could probably have another full-time job and no one would notice.
But I think, it definitely, it is difficult to pack in kind of full work days on either, either end of the 24 hours. But it is also incredibly kind of exciting to be on the hyper-local reporting beat because, I feel like Between Two Rocks, your pieces I think are more personal, your expressing opinion, but also you try to tackle very kind of big ideas. These are things that you have to spend time thinking seriously about how you feel about something, even if it's, written comically, but you want to express something original in an engaging way. A lot of our assignments, and I'm not saying this in a, derogatory way, but a lot of our assignments require going to a place at a particular time. 3 hours later, you have to have something written about that.
Totally.
And so there's a deadline and also a matter of the fact this happened. What happened? You write it. Now move on to the next thing. Which I really, that's not everyone's jam. But for the people who do love kind of bouncing around constantly between different things, meeting new people, and getting stuff quickly written, being a local journalist is the best because that's what you do all the time. And, spend, a couple times a month writing longer, more investigative, ruminative pieces. But a lot of it is just boom, 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 boom. And then you fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it is pretty fascinating because actually I wrote for the Daily Campus over at UConn, which is their daily newspaper, and before they would let me write commentary, I had to write 3 just standard reporting articles. They're no, you have to prove that you can do these things before we'll let you just spout off your opinion.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
it's very different, and
it is.
I much prefer
Challenge.
that than I don't. Would not be comfortable writing stuff in the first person or op-eds, but in terms of being someone who can just kind of plot myself in a room and, get people comfortable enough around me to let me photograph them and tell, answer my questions. That's what you kind of train yourself to be good at. And it helps that we both love the community we live in. I mean, that's another part of being a good community journalist.
So you do like New Haven?
Oh, we love New Haven.
You got to do this job well because we're invested in, this knowledge about the everything from City Hall to whatever's happening in a given neighborhood is what contributes to a vibrant democracy and community. People who are informed are more likely to be engaged and working towards the betterment of their life.
We love New Haven.
I think we do our smart part.
So you're not from New Haven, right, Lucy?
Neither of us are from New Haven.
All right.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Detroit.
Okay. And Tom?
I'm from the suburbs of New York City, a town called Irvington, by the Tappan Zee Bridge.
Oh, cool. I was born in Sleepy Hollow, so.
Very close.
Yep, very spooky.
Yes. Do you know Bill Saunders, another great independent commenter?
Yeah.
And wonderful kind of idiosyncratic guy. He was born in Sleepy Hollow on Halloween.
Oh, shit.
Wow. He actually
I was
is.
November 9th.
And he actually was.
He actually is.
Oh, wow.
Ichabod
That's
Crane.
pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. He's pretty spooky. I just remember he had that whole thing where he was putting up all the art in the bus stops of
the bus
art of the top. Yeah, boobs. Yeah, it was pretty. That was pretty fun.
Boobs, yeah.
Do people ever take issue, either one of you, with things that you've written aside from the comment section? But since it is hyper local, I mean, you actually know people that you're writing about.
Yes.
Do they, do you get angry emails or phone calls or texts or face-to-face knocks on your door at 3 a.m?
Oh, I was going to
Yes.
say all the time, but then you said the last part, and I don't. We haven't had a face-to-face knock.
We
on the door
get
at 3
knocks
in
at
the
3 in the morning all the time.
And on our face.
1 in the afternoon, 10
Although,
a.m.
I feel like you have gotten calls very late at night before.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's
but-
going on, Tom?
I know, right?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
no
guys.
knocks on
Is
the
that
door.
Why do you
another
have 2 cell phones, Tom?
Is that another sultry, angry commenter?
Right, let me just type out a note for Lucy. That was a callback, people, for all you in the audience.
Yeah, I would say Tom gets it
people-
more than I do because he is often writing on city government, and people get
More heated about that stuff.
people get
yeah.
really, really heated about that.
People in the government or people just other
think
interested
both.
parties?
I think both.
Okay.
I mean, I think certainly during the last mayoral election, you saw people on both sides who were really divisive,
Mm-hmm.
and
That
Tom
dude, Alex,
got some of
yelled
that.
at me a couple times on Facebook.
Who is running for state senate?
Who was
Yeah.
running for state
Yeah.
senate
Looney,
against
Alex
Looney. Alex Talbus. Yeah, he's like
Yeah.
he was a big part of Harp's re-election campaign, and I said some stuff about how her being ridiculous, and he actually messaged me on Facebook, and he's like, "You're not being fair," and I'm like, "I definitely don't care enough."
Did you
to,
say
like,
it in
get
the
into
comments
this.
on the
Yeah,
Independent?
yeah.
Or what? Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
So he's actually scouring the comments and getting in touch with commenters. Wow.
Oh, Alex is he's a big commenter.
Yeah.
He was during the campaign. He's kind of fallen off a little bit. I imagine he will get more engaged again now
Yeah.
that he's in his own campaign.
How you doing on time there, Lucy?
I'm okay.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
I'm
Lucy,
doing okay.
assignment.
Do you
in the
think it
future.
ever, in the same vein, does it ever color your writing, knowing that you are going to write about these? Especially about people in government, because you're going to write about them again. It's not a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, New Haven is a very small city, and I know a lot of the people, and I'm on very friendly terms with a lot of the people that I write about. Now, there's a difference between someone I'm on friendly terms with and someone I'm very close with and spend my free time with.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, I don't. Some journalists get into the business because they want to take down people in positions of power for good reasons. If you kind of seek out the people who are using their influence for corrupt or self-aggrandizing reasons. And I feel like that is a great reason to be a reporter, and I aspire to do that, and I do that a little bit. But most of the writing I aspire to do on a day-to-day basis is just writing about true things that happen in New Haven so that we can all kind of function together as a more informed community. Sometimes that is negative stuff, sometimes it's positive stuff. But I like to think that the way that I kind of bring myself to the job, it's not I'm not going out there trying to punch you in the face. If there are some people who need, who are doing stuff that deserve, some very critical writing of, but
And you, in fact, have a
and or physical violence.
well,
no physical violence.
I mean,
you
actually,
kind of have to earn the trust that you got to earn the trust of subjects as well as readers that you're not going out there just to cause trouble. You're
Right.
going out there to write true stuff.
I'm out there to cause trouble, and they know it, and that is one of the many reasons I have trouble. All right, so I want to get to this before Lucy has to leave. So, my initial thought was just being who are you gonna vote for? But I was actually thinking it would be more fun to do a fuck, marry, kill about Democratic. Can you do it or no?
Ooh, well, can I talk
Nominees. So basically,
about mean people for a second?
For
too?
president, we're talking about.
yeah, for president. Yeah,
Oh,
not locally.
No, I
So you're
wanted
both
to talk
voting
about
Democratic?
mean readers, but that's okay.
We are both registered
We are,
Democrats, and
we
we
are.
also were just in New Hampshire this weekend
Yes.
on the presidential campaign hustings, writing about eight or nine different
Yeah.
Democratic candidates.
So do you not feel comfortable expressing your opinions? Or?
No, actually, presidential.
we do.
Totally
We do.
Yeah,
talking about
presidential.
that.
Yeah, I wouldn't make you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make you burn.
Right, burn people
Yeah.
at a more local
Locally.
division
Yeah.
level. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to take it first?
You can go.
So I
you
do.
write them down and slip
I
them
got
forward, saying at the same time.
It'll
I
be,
got-
so we're gonna do fuck, marry, kill. So basically, who do you like? Who do you love? Who do you like? And who do you not like?
And
basically.
this is going to be me, I'm sure, wimping out, but fuck, marry, kill structuring of it is something I'm kind of uncomfortable with. So I'm going to go with the who do I love, who do I like,
Okay,
and whatever.
sure.
But I mean, if I had to vote today, it would definitely be for Bernie Sanders. I feel like for
Okay.
a long time I've been between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, but the more that I see him build his campaign around the electoral strategy of you need a mass movement of people backing these progressive ideas or else it means nothing, I think that is the type of politics that I want to be a part of.
Okay.
Love Elizabeth Warren. I feel like she'd be a fantastic executive, and redistribution of wealth stuff is I'm glad she's pushing it, but I I don't see her building a mass movement in the way that Sanders is, and in a way that's, I think, necessary to, because presidency is just one part of our government. You also have the Senate as controlled by some, really, really difficult people, and you kind of you need constant public pressure, and I feel like Sanders is the best to get that going.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That was one answer.
That was one
You gave
answer.
one answer.
That was an answer.
Well, there was love, I guess, Sanders, and I'm hearing a Elizabeth Warren.
Definitely
I
like
guess.
Elizabeth Warren. And there's no candidate running right now who I absolutely hate. I mean, the one who I would kind of struggle to vote for, who I probably ultimately will have to, because I'm quite confident he'll be the nominee, is Michael Bloomberg. And
Really? You're confident he's going to be the nominee?
I'm very increasingly confident as Joe Biden's campaign just kind of burns out and self-destructs in a humiliating and really painful way. it's like Michael Bloomberg has already spent $200 million of his own money on campaign ads, mostly attacking Trump, but also boosting himself. Not in New Hampshire or Iowa, but in Florida. And in North Carolina, and in places that actually matter
Super
in terms of
California,
when elections are.
He's going after the delegates.
So I think Bloomberg has spent his money in a lot of really admirable ways, like promoting gun control in unpopular places in the Midwest. I'm down for people to throw their money at those causes, and sugary drinks not crazy about, but he also funds all of these kind of democracy boot camps for new mayors. The thing that would make me struggle to support him, even though I would against Trump, is that I fundamentally don't believe that anyone should be able to buy the presidency.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing. He is, through his own $62 billion personal wealth, he's buying himself the presidency. And regardless of what you think, you could be Bernie Sanders and, doing that. I just can't.
How did he make all that
support
money? Is it a financial thing?
Bloomberg LP.
What
Yeah,
is
it's all
it?
financial stuff, yeah.
Hedge fund stuff.
Yeah, he's
Cool.
one of those who started out trading with, the Goldman Sachs, Salomon Brothers kind of stuff. But then he's
I
also,
gotcha.
he is actually a self-made billionaire. He's not someone who inherited it.
Oh, so he's great. Perfect.
But there's
Love him.
something kind of dictatorial about it. I mean, he changed term limits as New York City mayor so that he could be mayor for 4 more years. I don't want people to do that shit when they're running the
that
country.
is terrifying.
Even if I agree with you, I don't think that's cool for democracy.
The only thing I like about him is that he has way more money than Trump.
He does.
And that's just so belittling to Trump himself that it's like, oh man, I would love that
you're
for
going
the
into
debate.
the troll vote.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not for him, but
Oh,
Lucy,
you
who
Lucy.
do you marry?
Well, do I marry and I fuck a different person, right? Or the same person?
Yeah.
Ooh, let's get
Okay.
into
I like
it.
how you're way more comfortable with this premise. Tom was like, I don't know about this.
I mean,
You're
I
like,
also-
no, we're doubling down on the.
I also have a lot of questions about this because I Mary
It's like dream. Who's your dream candidate?
Oh,
and,
my
and then
dream
who do you kind
candidate.
of?
I wouldn't call it your dream candidate.
my-
Who would you marry? It's like who would you? who's
so
your,
Who's your
Elizabeth-
strong and steady, the one that you really. That's who you.
well,
you'll
like-
stick
it's
with.
whatever you want it to be. I mean, really, there's no rules here.
Look at all the marriages out in the
Yeah.
world.
No,
I
I mean, so Elizabeth Warren is my ride or die, which is unfortunate because I think she's flagging.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
with
she's
you as
flagging
well.
in a big
I like
way.
her.
Yeah.
And
As a policy wonk,
I
I just love that every time she's like, I have an answer for that. I'm like, yeah, she
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I think she's a
she
great
does.
senator.
Yeah. And I mean, I love her and I like her, I guess. And then instead of kill, I mean, I would say, so there are a whole number of people who I would lock in Mayor Pete's wine cave. Mayor Pete would be one of those people.
Yeah.
But then also Joe Biden. And I don't like Bloom. I will get behind whoever isn't Trump, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But I feel really gross and slimy and itchy about Bloomberg. And I also, I will say, the person I love who I don't specifically think would be the best executive is Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
I think he's done this country a great service by just moving the needle to the left. And we heard him speak this weekend, and he's a really great rhetorician.
Yeah.
Which I had forgotten, and then I was like, "Oh, this is why people
yes,
love
yeah,
him."
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yeah, you don't get that many people to stand outside without being charismatic.
Right.
Yeah, in 4-degree weather.
Yeah, and he brings a morality to politics in a way that I'm really comfortable with. He says that it's not okay for us to live in a society where there's such drastic inequality. I'm down for religious people to make that message too, but I think that it's important for politicians to get on that that messaging way too, because it's not just about policy wonkery. As much as important as that is to have the best plan, you gotta like talk to people and convince them at their like core that like this is something that we should not have to tolerate. In our
Are you
society.
worried that he's just too old?
Totally. I'm so worried, and I'm so reluctant to vote for another old white guy.
Because you're voting for 8 years, right? Like that's how you have
Right.
to look at it. And he had a heart attack 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
that's not good.
As far as 78 goes, he's
Not
certainly
great.
a sprightly 78. I mean, look at Joe
Yeah.
Biden. Joe Biden, who's younger than him by a year. Joe Biden looks like he's at death's door, kind of constantly.
He needs lots of
So,
naps.
but that
we
said,
learned that this weekend.
Bernie would be
Is that
the
right? Biden does?
I think so. He did like
He's really
one
looking.
campaign event a day, and I really do think that was because he was napping.
Yeah. Well, he also like knows he's probably not going to win New Hampshire. Like he's also one of those people who's like, I'm waiting for Super Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they know that, like
I feel like
Mayor Pete has to.
he's been
go
waiting
for
to
it.
just kind of get handed the job, which I was turned off by the whole time. Right from the start, you're like, he didn't really want to say anything.
I just
He's
feel like
waiting.
It sucks that like his son died last time, right? So he couldn't run last cycle, but it's like now it's too late, man. Like
Yeah.
you should have he gave no room for any other moderates to breathe, like a Cory Booker or somebody.
Yeah.
Who,
Well, I
like,
think it's
could
too
have
late
a
for
shot.
Bernie. I voted for Bernie last time, and I'm like, he's just too old now, man. I still like
that's
him, but
fair.
it's just too much.
What fascinates me is how many like Obama, I feel like didn't deliver a lot of things. So a lot of people were like, well, we need someone like a Bernie, like who really inspires. Whereas I went the other end, and I was like, I want like a Machiavellian like villain, like a Hillary who like understands how the wheels turn and understands that like what actually like in my brain, I think Hillary low key agrees with Bernie on pretty much every policy. She's just like is trying to cater to these like she's trying to play this game, which makes her inauthentic and unlikable or whatever, right? But like to me, I was like, all right, I'm into that.
I don't think she wants the Clinton dynastic wealth getting redistributed. I don't think she's.
I don't think she.
part
I
of
mean,
that.
there's no danger of anything like destroying their fortune. Like, I just don't think
Yeah, but I think more of just
no Republican-controlled Senate is going to pass any of those laws anyway. You got to
Yeah.
go. What do you?
I gotta head out.
Okay, that's fine.
Is it because Josh and I have just started talking to one
No,
another?
no,
Is that-
you're wonderful. I am I have like 2 or 3 minutes, but I'm covering a meeting of the city's cultural commission actually. So New Haven has a new
That's hyper as shit.
director. New Haven has a new director of arts, culture, and tourism. Her name is Adrienne Jefferson, and we're like really lucky to have her. She's a
Cool.
total badass, and
Is that what
I
we
think
want in
she's
that
gonna-
role? Badass.
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
yes,
I mean, Josh has just expressed his preference for Machiavellian leaders in government. So
Well, just because I really do think a lot of it is like an underrated part of politics is like being the whip, you know what I mean, and getting the votes. Like I hate to say it, but a lot of it is like you have to make those shitty compromises.
Lucy's got to go.
look at Mitch. I mean, Mitch McConnell's the perfect example of that. He is
Yeah.
the
He's
probably
played
one of
the
the
game.
most talented
Yeah.
politicians in like
hate
marshaling.
him so much, but
so
Right.
evil.
yeah,
Right.
he is very.
and yet his stamp will be left on this nation for
Yeah,
years
totally.
to come.
Really?
So,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, his name came up as much as Trump's when we were up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Because people recognize that, especially with the impeachment just done, like he is as responsible for all the stuff.
so are you
going
gonna stick around for a
Yeah.
couple extra minutes, Tom? Or are you also gonna go?
Sure, if you're
You stick
if
around?
you're
Okay.
down to
Yeah.
if
That's
there's
fine.
more you want to
easier
talk about,
It's an easier dismount. Well, we only have like 5 or 10 minutes, and that's fine. I just don't want to like.
then we can talk
awkwardly be
about
like, anyway, bye.
we can talk about Lucy when she's gone, and no one will
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
of
you,
course.
you
Finally.
can say
No one will
you can spill all the
There'll
tea.
never be
Spill
any
the tea.
consequences for
Spill the
that.
tea.
No, of course not. We don't.
And let me
live
just check. Let me
together or
turn to make sure my
anything.
You wanna
car's
take a
still on.
break?
Wait, my car's gone. It's
After
just
she
kidding.
goes. Okay, cool.
Oh,
All right,
man,
Lucy. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good
Have
luck
fun.
in your story.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a very short break, and then we will be right back with Tom Breen only, and not
Only.
Lucy Gellman. And we are back, and Parasite has won Best Picture of the Oscars. What a stunning upset. You are 40 minutes into my Oscar podcast. As you know, we've been discussing the Oscars for the last 40 minutes. So,
What a show.
what a show. I know Colin wanted to kill 1917, but we decided that we love Did you see Parasite, Tom?
I did. I saw it twice.
You did?
actually.
Oh,
I
so
did.
you liked it then.
I
Really?
did. I liked
Yeah,
it
it was
quite a
fucking
bit.
I didn't see
awesome.
it, actually.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
I saw it and was like, there is no way that somebody made a better movie than that this year.
Really?
Yeah, it's just cool. It is really, yeah, I was like, wow, that is fucking different.
Yeah,
Hell
you saw it in theaters?
Yeah.
Cool.
Class
So-
conscious, like horror entertainment.
Did that have a
I
wide
don't even
release,
know.
or was it like a artsy
Not really,
thing?
but yeah, it's, I'm sure it'll be back out now. That's nice.
Yeah.
So, We were talking to Tom Breen and Lucy Gellman, who had to leave to do her job.
That's pretty rude.
And she was just like, "Peace, I'm done with this interview." Right?
Yeah,
It was like,
she has a hugely
Slam the door.
cuss word just being
I know.
thrown around.
Well, dude, a couple weeks ago, the actor Adam Driver walked out of an interview with Terry Gross on WHYY.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I guess he hates listening to clips of himself in movies that he's acted in. And Terry Gross insisted on playing a clip of him from Marriage Story, and he got up and walked out of the interview.
Oh my god,
Terry Gross, dude, what an asshole.
Interesting response to that anecdote.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Tom.
So yeah, that's what happened with Lucy.
Okay, so one of the things I did want to talk about is what. So New Haven has a lot of sort of aspiring developments coming up, right? And I'm not really talking about just these apartment complexes or whatever, luxury housing. But I know there's some sort of aspirational stuff. Like there was the story of the Independent about the new Worcester Square Bridge crossing. There's the Long Wharf plans. There's downtown crossing. What do you think the city is? What are you actually excited about? What do you think might actually succeed? Do you see? Because I know some of these things. I think that maybe the Long Wharf plan is so aspirational as to be not really based in reality. You know what I mean? It's just
and it's not good for a lot of reasons. It's just not a good plan either.
I don't know if it's a good plan or not, but the amount of money required, I guess, is just so outrageous that I'm it doesn't matter if it's good or not.
Right. So I will try, probably inaptly, but try to give a very broad overview of what the Long Wharf plan is. So the city plan department and economic development department spent years coming up with this vision for what Long Wharf could be, other than this, waterfront neighborhood segregated from the rest of the city by highways, and just kind of the dumping ground of, either former factories or the big sports haven kind of gambling complex, and IKEA's over there. This kind of this mishmash of talk about
for 20 minutes at a time.
Waterfront areas tend to be some of the most valuable in terms of real estate value, but also some of the most important kind of recreational area in any city. And New Haven often feels like that, that area is so squandered because of how inaccessible it is. So the city, the city plan department developed, and then the alders adopted this kind of aspirational plan for dividing Long Wharf into these 5 different zones that consist of kind of stormwater retention parks that help with, the inevitably, rising kind of sea level in this era of climate change that we have.
False.
And
climate change is false.
Right. That was the first half of this episode of the climate change denial, and then we did Oscars, and now we're doing
right. Yeah.
But and then
start with fake news.
Kind of different zones for maybe a food hall or some kind of restaurants and food distribution stuff. And then having residential apartments and condos, and then retail, kind of dividing up into sections. It's all, or almost all, except for the environmental resiliency stuff, relies on private investment. I mean, this is laying out a plan and then going out to the market, whatever that means, and saying, people, put money into
Randy
these projects.
Salvatore, what are you willing to finance
Exactly.
here?
And, the city can do certain things to help, help developers go through, the Board of Zoning Appeals and City Plan Commission and giving advice on how best to get these projects approved. But it ultimately relies on not, taxpayer dollars, but usually tax breaks or giveaways, and then attracting private investment. So, but I would be thrilled to see if something happened. I mean, so much of New Haven's, I think, struggles to grow is the factor of having a completely broken public transportation system. And even though it's better than elsewhere in Connecticut, it's very difficult to get around the city if you don't have a car. And I think that there are kind of structural changes to everything from how wide Whaley Avenue is to how more speed bumps and protected crosswalks and more dedicated kind of protected bike lanes all over the city. That kind of stuff, it's not the sexy stuff, but it needs to happen first before we can have this vision realized of different areas of the city just kind of teeming with life.
So are you
because
saying
people
it's
aren't
bad
getting
that pedestrians keep getting killed?
Right.
It's not...
I mean, last year we had as many, or maybe one less, pedestrian killed by car than gun homicide. Not that I want more gun homicides, but I think that's a pretty sobering statistic.
But if you do have a gun and you can go shoot somebody, you can get those numbers up.
Get those numbers up.
And you can beat those
the
cars.
ratio is
you know?
what we're talking
like,
about.
Stop letting cars outdo you. You know?
I'm excited.
Why do you even have a gun if you're not going to shoot anybody with it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's what this podcast is all about.
That's right.
Just goading the listener.
Get out there, people.
Why are we having a hard time finding sponsors? I don't get it. We cover everything: movies, guns, just those two mostly.
I mean, I would say I'm also excited for stuff like the new like neuroscience center development that Yale New Haven Hospital is building at St. Raphael's campus, where they're going to invest nearly like $1 billion to build this kind of cutting edge neuroscience research and treatment facility that I think will do incredible things for New Haven's workforce and for its economy.
For a certain kind of workforce, though, probably.
I think that's where we, as like residents who are not beholden or as beholden, we're kind of all in the city beholden to Yale in some way, but we need to kind of put pressure on the university, on the hospital, to make sure that the community in which these institutions exist kind of thrives alongside them. For a long time, it was just acrimony, and still kind of is very tense relationship between town and gown. But I think that with projects like this, where you do have this huge, institution interested in investing this much time and money into the city, it's an opportunity for everyone to benefit with more jobs, with more traffic calming stuff. Maybe ideally, I don't think that they have any kind of subsidized housing plan, but that's the kind of stuff those are the asks that city residents, I think, are making. And I was so encouraged how last year, as frustrated as independent commenters get, as many people get by the protests in the street every day, I wrote an article about this too at the end of the year. I feel like last year was really a year of like people taking to the streets and demanding that their voices be heard. Sometimes it's annoying and sometimes you feel like they're disingenuous, but that is the kind of thing that needs to happen for people in positions of power, to see that like you can't just make decisions without any concern for everyone else who lives in the city.
Do you think the Independent plays any role in driving any of those things, aside from just reporting on the facts, like you said? And I know you're an impartial reporter,
right.
But I mean, do you think realistically there's a role for the Independent to play to get people in power to
it's a
listen up?
These are the kind of questions that I love, and also that I feel like I, as being a part of the community that I write about, I'm as invested in like this being a great place to live as anyone else. Now, that doesn't mean boosterism. I feel like there are plenty of lifestyle magazines like out in the world that just kind of say like, here's, a really nice thing. That does not make
I'm practically boosterism in some ways.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think that I think Between Two Rocks really, in a like very entertaining way, provokes people to think. Like your piece about the election, comparing Harp and Ellicott and kind of what the two stand for. Like I
my
felt
reluctant
really
vote for
thoughtful.
Ellicott. Yeah,
Totally,
I got a lot of good
really
feedback on that. They're like, I agree.
Yeah,
I
that's not
also feel
boosterism
very
at all.
negative about these people.
I think your blog just existing though is a good
booster, right?
Is a booster right there. It's like people are like, it's an active community. People are having fun here. So it's.
But
no matter how sad they get.
Yeah,
even though
sad guy's pretty funny once in a while.
I don't
Dance
believe
clown.
I don't believe that there is such a thing as like totally objective journalism. Right?
No,
It's always going to be
no.
motivated in some way by the prejudices of the person writing it. I think that
What are
any,
your top three
any journalist-
prejudices, would you say?
Any
I just
I'm not even
want
going
to
to make a
destroy
joke.
someone's career. Yeah, I would
I
say
was gonna
don't
say,
do it. Yeah.
Probably not.
I would probably
not
say, if I was you, I would say something you'd also lose my career.
Fuck, marry, kill, prejudice.
But I would say in terms of what we choose to write about is a demonstration of our
course.
prejudice or judgment in some way. Like we amplify certain stories,
Mm-hmm.
not in an uncritical way, but we choose to write about someone who's like seeking to, abolish solitary confinement in the prisons. We're not going and covering every like anti-toll rally. Not that those are happening in New Haven, but if there was one in the New Haven Green, we cover it. But the stories that we seek out, I just spent 5 minutes talking about how much I love Bernie Sanders. Like there are certain political and ideological things that I feel strongly about. But when it comes to reporting, like the most important thing is one, writing truthfully about something, and two, you gotta be fair as you can be to the people that you're writing about. The whole fair and balanced thing that Fox promotes, of course, it's like BS in the way that they practice it, but it's foundational journalism, right? Or if you're just propaganda, then you can only say one side. But we have have to talk to people even we disagree with.
Do you feel like, as a follow-up to that, do you feel like you ever have played a role in driving or moving the needle in any way? That something has happened from a policy standpoint or development or city activism.
Did you
or
destroy
anything.
Carol Burks? What happened there?
No,
Exactly.
that-
Really. I mean,
my
that's a
colleague-
good example.
Yeah, my colleague Chris Peak, in his many investigative stories about the Board of Ed, I think played a big role in the changeover in superintendent. I will pick a much smaller example, but one that I am incredibly proud of, and I think it's the kind of stuff I want to do more of, is an 83-year-old tenant on Howe Street was facing a 60% increase in his rent. Some local investor bought this building that's kind of in the orbit of the downtown Yale campuses, and was going to renovate it and jack up all the prices. And
getting close to home
and,
now.
right, and
I should go.
but also I spoke to the
Nobody
new
currently
owner
lives
as
in
well.
the houses you bought, though.
What's
really.
that?
Nobody's currently the houses you buy nowadays. You're usually renovating. They're not. Nobody's in them. Right?
No. I mean, not while I'm doing.
But there's
there's
a difference between, I think, charging market rent, which is something. It is not. It sounds like you are in that. It's not easy to make money. There are so many costs in being a landlord, especially in being a good and responsible landlord.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't want to diminish that. However,
So the first things you got to do to make a profit is get rid of good and responsible. Bam, you are on your way to profit.
I think about that every day.
You're like, if I just don't answer this text, do they need
I didn't
heat?
care
It's
about
not even
people.
that
I can
cold.
make way more money.
but I think what this landlord missed in just looking at the numbers was that he was bringing this studio apartment to a level that he thought was an appropriate market rent,
Yeah.
which he's probably right about. But on the ground, he was increasing a 81-year-old tenant who had lived there for 20 years. He was increasing his rent by 60%. And we have a fair rent commission in this city where you can appeal unreasonable rent increases. There's no limit in Connecticut as to how much your rent can go up year over year. And so I wrote about that guy, facing the rent increase. There were a lot
You
of
were in
comments, a
favor
lot
of
of
the
discussion.
increase, I assume?
I
Yeah.
said, jack it up.
More.
60
Right.
even high enough?
And then the landlord and the tenant ultimately came to a deal after the landlord, again, one of those getting late night calls with someone screaming at you, felt like I had, unduly smeared his name in the public. But,
reporting
the facts.
the truth of the matter was that he was,
Yeah.
he gave me his reason, but he was raising rent by a lot
Yeah.
on this 81-year-old guy who lived there for 20 years. And so
Yeah.
they came to a deal and he got to stay in his apartment, and who
Nice.
knows how long that'll happen. And, it's such a individual story, but I feel like those are the kinds of things that there was a very material impact from this story that I wrote on. This guy didn't have to leave his house
Nice.
because of that.
All right, we got to wrap up. It is getting
All right.
pretty long. Before one game before we go, Mayor for a day. So I'm going to give you $1 million to do whatever you want in New Haven. You cannot give it to the New Haven Independent. I'm sorry. I know that's like a year's.
Or the Board of Ed.
Or the Board. I mean, I don't think you give the Board of Ed because he knows how much money it uses. So what would you do? $1 million, Mayor for a day. You don't have to worry about alder approval or anything.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. I'd encourage people to check out. This is such a boring, dry thing to the transition report that the LA Current administration did. I feel like it has a lot of really interesting community source ideas about what needs to happen in the city. I would say what I heard most on when I was kind of covering the mayoral election, kind of going to different neighborhoods, is people always talk about there not being enough things like productive pro-social, hopefully paying things for young people to do in the city. There are after school programs and
we
young
got axe
jobs
throwing now. It's fine.
That's right.
But I mean more like high school students and
young
also
people. Well, Q House is going to be back soon.
well, but stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I think that if I could plow as much money as possible into just after school programs and community centers in every single neighborhood where people who are interested in going to learn an employable skill or just spend time and be on a computer, the library, the library basement kind of computer game area where there are always people teenagers playing games constantly. It's just this incredibly social and fun place to be.
Yeah.
And other if you don't have stuff like that, then people don't have anywhere else to go. And so I think I
Exactly.
would put as much money as possible into just having stuff.
Once
fun,
you start playing World of
productive stuff.
Warcraft, you leave the life
young
of crime
people to do.
behind. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? You're like,
You don't
listen,
have time.
I got this warlock. I can't be committing crimes right now. I got to raise levels.
Can't leave him unattended.
That's right. If I had $1 million, I would grease whatever wheels to get my fucking bike lane dug. Where's my? Oh my God! What year? Year
The
5
Edgewood
now.
cycle track.
It's never happening, is it? I'm gonna die before this thing happens. Anyway, all right. Do you have anything else you want to add before we?
No.
All right, great.
Nope.
Perfect.
Game's done.
Anything you want to plug before we go?
No.
All right. Tom, NewHavenIndependent.org.
NewHavenIndependent.org. Yeah, and
Afterdark.
check it out.
NewHavenIndependent.org.
It's the sexy comments that are moderated out.
What are they not telling you?
We probably could spin up a site that's just like a clone of theirs, but then
Probably.
just add in like fake comments. It would be fucking awesome. What a good use of our engineering skills that would be.
You'd be shocked at the things that are out there. You know, I taught a class at Gateway, and their
Yeah.
website is gatewayct.edu.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me just check. Gatewayct.com. Available.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, guys. Come on.
A little defensive squatting wouldn't hurt you. Yeah.
It's $11, guys. Come on.
Thank you so much to Lucy Gellman. She had to leave early, but I'm so glad that she came. And you, Tom Breen, thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Yeah, and NewHavenArts.org is Lucy's paper. NewHavenIndependent.org is mine. And we don't spend any money on like marketing. There's no marketing budget for the Independent. So it's just we rely on word of mouth and people find it. So if you check out the site and you're into it, tell a friend and have them read.
All right, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, bye. Sweet.
Busy people and lots of yellies, Worcester hipsters and fat up townies. We have more than pizza in common, with 2 rocks for bookends. New Haven, New Haven, New Haven, between 2 rocks. Ba-da-da-da.